All right, we got a bit of a detailer dilemma going on here. So there's a lot more swirls and stuff than I was expecting, given it's a 25. But it seems to be limited to primarily the sides. So that's indicative of tunnel wash. Right. It works out pretty good. So that is the Rupes intermediate pad. All right, so it's stiffer than the fine. So that gives me a little more bite. I like it. All right, passenger door. I'm okay with this. I think it looks good. All this black plastic, this stuff's a mess. We'll come back to this. Time for ceramic. So I want to go around the car and just double check we don't have any polish or whatever. But I washed the car. You know, this thing was definitely a little worse than what I, thought, right? Because it is a 25. It does have 18,000 miles on it. Ryan bought it used. So the first owner definitely went through tunnel washes. I can see it in like the wheels, especially on this black lower trim. That's just where those side brushes really start eating into the car. It's just a slow process. I'd rather cut quickly and efficiently with a rotary and then, just polish with a DA. So that's why I did use the Rupes intermediate pad, right, to get more bite on the hard BMW clear. Like if this color was dark, if it was a black or anything darker, I definitely would have two-stepped it. But white is a very forgiving color, especially, this glacier metallic. You know what I wanted to do? We need to do touch-up paint. Now we did have a front license plate on that I pulled off. So we do have 4, I don't know why they do this, but we got the remnants of the 4 holes there. I told Ryan just to get some bumper plugs. So we just got some isolated rock chips. And fortunately for Ryan, my wife's old car was glacier white metallic. The X5 was the same color. Much better, right? Especially on a white car, that contrast. Right, so just get a little bit of paint on there. Much better. All right, we're doing Geon Infinite and top coat. Retail pricing on this package for this size car is about $1,700. I was watching. I came across it's called Blacktail Studio. He's a woodworker. Huge channel, like 3 million plus subscribers. Huge channel, gets $1 million or a million views a video. But he sells ceramic for wood. I didn't even think that was I didn't know that was a thing to, for his epoxy tables. It's got to be just because they're epoxy tables, right? He uses his own boat epoxy. So I'm officially at the age where the people I hang out with are kind of dependent on who my kid hangs out with. So like it definitely helps to have, people that can keep your kid busy and I guess keep the adults busy as well. But last night, after trick-or-treating, we went to, we've been in their house a couple times, but we went there last night, just my daughter and I. Well, these parents were drinking during the, Halloween trick-or-treating in the neighborhood, and then they kept drinking after. And I don't drink. I haven't drank in 2 years. Well, let me clear. I drank twice in 2 years. So, hanging out with new people in that type of, environment, I had to explain again why I'm not drinking. Because I don't get it. Like the first thing that people come to mind is, why? Or they say, or they think there's some like deeper underlying, meaning for it. And I was just like, no, I don't know. I just stopped drinking 2 years ago. And it's not like I had to explain myself. These are normal these are normal people. It was just more of, you know, had to talk about it for a little bit, which was weird. I wasn't expecting that. So I don't know. We stayed there till 10 o'clock, which is pretty late for having my kid out, but you know, it's fine. You know, Halloween being on a Friday night is much better. But for me, I quit drinking 2 years ago because I was getting bad hangovers. You know, one day, sometimes leading into two, you know, just feeling like shit. And it was just getting annoying. You know, so when I stopped, like, you know, 1 week turned into 2 weeks of non-drinking, turned into a month, turned into 6 months, whatever. It just kept going. And I didn't really think anything of it. You know, like I kind of got my Sundays back, which I liked, instead of just being, you know, kind of worthless on Sundays. You know, we were definitely more productive. My wife was never a big drinker. You know, she's Asian, so, you know, two drinks in her and she's on the floor. You know, she gets red. That's a big thing with the Asians, at least the ones I've met. But it was 2 years ago, right? I was getting worse hangovers. I was just more tired and more lethargic overall. And, you know, that's probably just aging, right? And then last year, I started taking testosterone medicine. Or I went through the whole process as far as getting blood work. Mainly because I just wanted to see what my levels were. I never checked my testosterone levels or my estradiol levels, estrogen levels. So it was a good exercise for that. And, you know, for $250, they'll do your blood work, and then you'll have a consultation with a nurse practitioner. And obviously, they're going to sell you everything they can. But at the time, a year ago, my total testosterone levels was like 560, which is normal, you know, for my age. But, you know, of course, to them, normal is, you know, 1,200, 1,000. You know, so they prescribed me TRT, you know, injectable TRT, and do that. At the time, I wasn't so gung-ho on it, given my levels I thought were okay, based on my research. So I did some more follow-ups with these telehealth clinics, and ultimately I chose enclomiphene. So it's a pill, right? I take 12.5 milligrams of enclomiphene daily. And all enclomiphene is, it's a SERM, but it's an estrogen blocker. So it's a way to naturally boost your testosterone production levels in your body, as opposed to TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, which is, you know, straight injection of testosterone in your blood. So anyway, I started taking it. So I went from, my total test levels went from, call it 560 up to, I think it was like 970, right? Really good jump in a short amount of time. That was after 3 months. Now I'm due to get my blood work done again this, you know, in fourth quarter. So I want to see what my levels are. But it's definitely helped as far as, you know, energy and mood. You know, I see a difference with, like, you know, muscle mass. You know, it helps with, you know, weight gain. But yeah, so for me, stopping drinking and then taking the testosterone, as well as working out and just trying to be, you know, a little more productive. But then it kind of turned into like this little, not secret, but I talk to one neighbor, then, I talk to another neighbor, then I find out, there's like 12, there's at least 12 guys that I know of, in our neighborhood that are, doing TRT. I haven't met anyone else locally or in the neighborhood that is on clomiphene, but I just thought it was funny. All these, I didn't realize it was as popular. So my advice is, like, if you're over 35, get your blood work done. There's no commitment. There's telehealth or not telehealth. There are telehealth, but there's clinics everywhere, and you can just get your blood work tested, and you can find out what your levels are. There's definitely other neighbors I've talked to that are curious about it, but they won't go through the process. Either, they don't think that there's that much of an impact or what, but, I think it's definitely worth just seeing where you're at. And clomiphene's really cheap, so I paid $1,200 for the year. It was discounted if you pay in a lump sum, but otherwise, it's maybe $130 a month, depending on where you go. It kind of depends on how much service you want from them, but it's very cheap. Even my wife doesn't watch these videos, so I think it's safe, but my wife started TRT 2 months ago. She's doing the pellets. So they inject testosterone pellets, like, high in your hip. I think it's more common for women. I haven't met any men that do pellet, but that has some trade-offs. The main one being, like, it's tough to adjust your dosage, right? Because you got a pellet in your hip that's dissolving over, I think it's like 6 months. She's doing that, and tirzepatide, some other crap, but I don't know. A bunch of needles are going into her, and hers is like maybe $900 a month, maybe $1,000 a month. At least in the interim. I know it's higher in the beginning, some of the stuff she's taking. So, there's a huge spread. You can go as crazy or as calm with this as you want to, but, I think, I don't know, maybe next year, whenever my levels start teetering off, I'll switch to TRT. And then you're kind of committed for life, which I think is maybe a downside. But if your body's not producing enough naturally, you don't have another choice. You either live with it, or you do twice-a-week injections in perpetuity. So I'm okay with that trade-off. And it's done. So 25M, or not M, what is this? It's a 230i. Ugh. Light paint correction, Geon Infinite, and top coat. Interior was a bear. The exterior was a little worse shape than what I expected, but I think it turned out really nice. Gloss looks great, right? So we did some touch-up paint on the front end. Got some white in the touch-up, or in the chips. If I could talk. Let's see, Geon tire on the tires. I put Geon ceramic detailer on the windshield to give it some water beading. But this thing turned out pretty good. Paint clarity is fine. Let's see the back end. Let's see. So with Geon Infinite, it is no water for 12 hours, can't get wet, and then it's 2 weeks, no washing. So it's, what is it? It's late afternoon on Saturday. We're going to keep this thing overnight. I'll see if he wants to pick it up later, but it just needs to stay inside. The weather's clear, but there it is. All right, so on the calendar, I have 2 cars for Lewis. Let's see, over Thanksgiving, and then we're gonna do his wife's X5 over, I guess, Christmas week. But beyond that, I don't know. We'll see what else November brings. I might do 1 more car. You know, again, I'm trying to chill out a bit. We don't need to work this hard. And then I started writing down some, I guess, talking ideas. One of which I think I was gonna do a year-end recap of my dividend portfolio. I think that might be interesting. What worked, what didn't. We definitely have some, losers, but overall, I think it's done well. And, I wanted to talk about, I guess, my plans as far as the future of my side hustle. I've been thinking a lot about, what next steps are. So I'll probably talk more about that in coming videos. So in any event, thanks for watching. It's been good. Forgot to show the interior. It's probably gonna be locked. Of course it's locked. All right, so everything was cleaned and conditioned. Pretty dirty interior for, kind of what I'd like to see. But it cleaned up really nice. Back seat never gets used, so it's just all, just normal wear and tear stuff. All good. Hopefully Ryan will enjoy the car. Appreciate the work that goes into it. We'll see.